Here's left. Pulls up, looking for the lead, and he got it. Jaylen Williams, 2 seconds, 111-109. Now SGA, probing, piercing, spinning, hanging for the lead, and SGA knocks it down. The Thunder finally get the defensive stop, and SGA puts them in front.
I'm Jaylen Williams. You're listening to Topic Thunder.
And welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Top Thunder Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Huntsinger at Thunder Chats. We're part of the B-League Network. This podcast is brought to you by betonline.ag. Now that that's out of the way, I just got to address the elephant in the room. Obviously, not in the normal podcast space. I'm in my living room. Our furnace is out, so we have 2 space heaters. This is one of the rooms that have it. So in order to not freeze, this is where I'm at. So also joining us in a different location is the man, the myth, the legend, the underscone, Connor. What up, Connor?
Not much, man. I'm doing well. Yeah, also in a different location. I'm back home visiting some family for the holidays, so I'm no longer in the New York City apartment. I'm also somewhere that's a little bit warmer. I'm hoping that you're staying warm enough, Dylan. I see you're wearing a literal hat. That maybe isn't the best sign, but I'm doing good, man. Thunder, on a 8-game win streak, is it? 7-game win streak?
Mm-hmm.
They've, 8-game win streak at the moment. They're racking them up. If you have a problem with it, don't ask me. Ask the official NBA standings. But yeah, it's been a while since they've had an officially recorded regular season loss, and they've been looking really good. It's a team right now on a 66, nearly 67 win pace with Chet Holmgren being injured, and we're going to talk about all that. Guys are playing really well. Even in the ugly games, they're still finding ways to consistently get wins. And I think it was Chris Fisher said today on the broadcast, this game against the Heat, as of today, I think the Thunder have only played like 3 home games. He said the last 38 days or something like that. It's been forever since we've played most of our home games, because we went on that whole, the last home game we played was against Dallas, and then we went through Vegas, and then we went to Florida literally the next day, and then we play a back-to-back against Miami and Orlando, and the Thunder come out of it without a single loss that's going to matter in the record book when it's all said and done, which is what we love to see, baby.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And, I think so. We've lost 1 game in the month of December. That was to the Rockets at the very beginning of the month, technically. Shout out to the chat here. We got Euro Thunder saying I'm still mourning devastatingly bad loss to the Bucks. Well, if you check the record book, it's never happened, so it's okay. Euro.
Yeah, those stats are literally nowhere, so don't worry about it.
It's AI generated, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I had it pulled up. Texan by Nature 88 says 22-5, fire emoji, lightning emoji. That's what's up. Oh, and Euro Thunder also drops a nice little nugget. This is our 3rd win in a row versus the Heat, and the Heat are always just a weird game for the Thunder because they're so
annoying.
They're one of the teams that throw the zone at us, and they don't start with the zone. They trick you. They start man-to-man. Then, second quarter, it's zone. And we're it takes us a little bit to adjust every friggin' time.
Mm-hmm. And we also have moments like when Jimmy Butler shot 20 free throws, went 20 for 20 in that game. And the Heat, weren't the Heat perfect 40 for 40 from the free throw line in that game? Mm-hmm. That was one of our first nationally televised games in a minute. And we we were never set up to win. It was always against us. So,
yeah, it was I think that was a flex national TV game too. It was finally, we're gonna get to see the Thunder on national TV, and it's this is not what I signed up for. I think Shea had a rough game that day too, so it was not fun. But hey, enough about the past. Let's talk about the present. As we said, the Thunder played the Heat tonight. We won against the Heat tonight. We actually played a game last night against Orlando Magic. We had a little Florida road trip after our trip in Vegas as well. So odds stacked against us in terms of the schedule and how many games we're playing. This is our 3rd game in 4 days unofficially. It wouldn't have been a shocker to see us drop one of these games, but the guys showed a lot of grit and won 2 close, hard-fought games both nights. So first of all, kind of just mentioned the Orlando Magic game. The Thunder won 105-99. What was weird about that game, obviously, going into it, they didn't have Franz Wagner. They didn't have Paolo Banchero. So we thought, coming off the Bucks game, it was going to be a game where the Thunder would come out and try to make a statement, try to like get that taste out of their mouth and try to really take it to the Magic. And for a couple quarters, they did that. I think that we led them by over 20 points going into halftime. And Suggs actually got hurt going into halftime, tried to come back in, didn't work out. And wouldn't you know it, much like the Thunder used to do to teams, the Magic just came chipping away at that lead.
Yeah, it was funny because I was able to watch the first half, but I didn't get to see the third quarter or pretty much the entirety of it because I was on a flight back here and the Wi-Fi was being like so finicky. I wasn't able to get on and I missed a majority of it. And then like I wasn't able to like check the score of the fourth quarter until we had like 5 or 6 minutes left, and we were up like 9 at that point. And I was like, "Oh, cool! They've kind of maintained the lead." So it wasn't until I looked back and like check through the score and like the play-by-play, I was like, "Oh shoot, we kind of blew this lead. Like they kind of forced it back." And that's the way that Orlando has been all season. I mean, they have been unbelievably scrappy despite Paolo missing a lot of time. He only played 5 games this season and then tore his oblique. And Franz Wagner stepped up and he was playing at an all-NBA level. And then he tore his oblique. Like they have been decimated by injuries. And even still, following the loss to us, they're 17-12. Like they are the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference right now. They're competing at a really high level. It's an annoying team to face off against. Both the Florida teams are. They have this very similar, like gritty, really well coached identity where it's like they could have like their 10 through 15th guys only playing like a 5-man lineup, and they would still make things annoying on most nights, especially for a Thunder team that just flew in from Vegas, that has been playing grueling basketball nonstop against some of the NBA's best teams over and over, against Dallas, against Houston, against Milwaukee. Like, it was one of those, and both these games kind of felt like trap games where we could have dropped one and it could have reinforced the people that, looked way too much into the NBA Cup loss and thinking, oh, the Thunder have like some massive problem. Like they're not actually that good. And instead the Thunder just, despite dealing with the storm that came in that third quarter against the Magic, they weathered it. And that's kind of what they've been doing all season. They've dealt with some really critical injuries. The Thunder haven't had their 5 best players available for any single game so far this season. And they're still at the top of the Western Conference and better record than the Celtics now. So they have the second best record in the entire NBA, only behind Cleveland, and that's just barely.
Yeah, and the important thing to note is the Mavs are the number 3 defense. Like, it goes Thunder, Rockets, and then Magic. I said Mavs, I apologize. Magic are the number 3 defense. And a lot of people are like, oh, they don't have Paolo, they don't have Franz. Like, Paolo and Franz aren't the reason they are the number 3 defense in the league.
Yeah,
right?
Those guys help for sure. But even without them, I mean, it's Jalen Suggs, it's Jonathan Isaac, it's Goga Batadze, who's really solid. It's KCP, who, even though his shot's not falling this season, still a very high-level defender. Like that team is loaded to the brim with really good defenders and a great defensive coach in Jamal Mosley. It doesn't matter who you're playing against. It'd be the same thing with the Thunder. Even if they didn't have Shea and Dub, like that's still a hyper-annoying defensive team to go up against. And so the fact that the Thunder were able to put together a game like that, despite the grueling schedule, it said a lot about them. I think it showed a lot about their resiliency. And it's one of those things that if you're not a Thunder fan, you may not realize how much they've been going through, how much travel that's been happening. Like you would probably, if the Thunder lost that one, be like, oh, that's a bad loss. Like no Paolo, no Franz for the Thunder. But if they lost the game, I would have been upset, but it would have been like, I kind of get it. And they didn't lose. Yeah.
And, kind of overarching, like looking at both of these games, the Thunder's 2 stars stepped up. They're the 2 all-stars, if you will, stepped up in big ways in different games. Dub did not have it against the Orlando Magic. He struggled mightily, and Shea stepped up in his stead. Shea, while he ended up having an okay game stat-wise, he didn't have it for much of the middle part of the game, despite starting off super hot. And Dub was consistently there in the Heat game. So both of those guys stepped up. I mean, just looking at Shea's numbers in the Orlando Magic game, it was everything you wanted him to have on Tuesday. But again, he did it on a better defense. So it just makes it that much more confusing. But 35 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals, 2 blocks, shot 57.7 from the field, and only got 4 free throws. And something that I saw online, like on Twitter, like the commentary about Shea as a free throw merchant started to shift, like just like overnight over that game. Like a lot of like smart basketball people, like Jackson Frank, I saw was like basically just trolling anybody that was calling Shea a free throw merchant because he's I think he said he's had 2 seasons now where he shot over 52%, like around the rim, or not around the rim, just in general as a guard, which this doesn't happen. Oh, on 2.
On 2-point field goals. Yeah, he shot like 52% or better. And the fact that he's become the free throw merchant is crazy. And there was also a stat, Shea is the most 35-plus point games this season with 4 or less free throw attempts. So if you want more indication, like, I mean, it's just one of those things that I think has become ingrained in people, and it's really never going to go away. That's just always going to be the case. But at least you know, we can know, and anybody who like actually watches the Thunder play, and they're going to be forced to when it comes to May and June, they'll, you know, people will realize that that's not really narrative at all. But yeah, that's the cool thing about having two, you know, a superstar and an all-star level player in Dub is their ability to go ahead and step up. In the Magic game, I guess if I can get into like specific single large item type stuff, I want to shout Alex Caruso. Caruso was awesome in that game. One of his best games of the season so far, I would say. Full stat line, 11 points, hit 3 threes, 3 rebounds, an assist, and 3 steals. The 3-point shot is still, you know, going up and down a little bit, but I feel like it's coming along more and more. I mean, today he should have been 1 of 3 from the outside, but he finishes 0 of 2 because like the tip of his big toe was on the line on that 3 that he hit in the corner. So that should have been a 3. So he should have managed to knock one down. He had 3 in that game against the Magic, but only 18 minutes. And he's just so disruptive. I know the offense has been a bit of a struggle so far this season for him on a lot of moments, especially the 3-point shot. Cause even still, I mean, the playmaking's been really good. He's done a great job. Like, I'm moving over games now, but I guess I'll just talk about them in tandem. Cause he was great in the Heat game. But that last possession, or one of the last possessions, when Dub misses that shot that he was trying to hit to ice the game. I think we were up like 5, and then Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein tandem like grab the offensive rebound. Basically, iHeart tips it up, and then Caruso comes down with it. Like that's the kind of effort that he puts in nonstop on the offensive glass, on the defensive glass, on the defensive end. Caruso is always going 1,000%, like nonstop, very like recklessly at times, which is part of the reason why he gets injured at moments. But he's just been so good this season, even without the 3-ball really falling. And I still believe it will come back to around mid-30s%. He's not going to shoot 28-ish% the entire season. It's just not going to happen with a guy who has a very proven track record. Like that would be for sure his worst shooting season of his entire career. The lowest he shot any year outside of his rookie season was 33%. So it's going to come back at least up a little bit. And once that shot becomes more consistent, the offense only gets more and more dangerous. And in the meantime, I mean, he's just breaking everybody defensively. The Thunder don't have anywhere near one of the best defenses ever if Caruso's not out there. So I know sometimes you don't realize it as much because this team has so many great defenders. But even if you get frustrated, you're like, Caruso, you got to hit those threes. Like just the amount of times where he pokes a ball away, or just even if he doesn't get a steal or doesn't result in a Thunder forcing a turnover, the amount of possessions that he blows up where a guy drives to the rim and he pokes the ball away and it just goes out of bounds. And now they have to reset from the outside and they only have like 6 or 7 seconds left on the shot clock. There's so many stuff that you don't see on the stat sheet that Caruso does. And I mean, it did show on the stat sheet a little bit today in the Miami game, 4 points, 3 boards, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. Just a game-breaking type player on the defensive end. He's such a difference maker that I don't think really gets noticed. I feel like people notice it a lot with iHeart because Chet's hurt and iHeart's been awesome and he puts up, you know, nonstop double doubles, but Caruso is making a very huge similar type impact. And that's, you know, the reason why, even though the Thunder 3-point shot hasn't always been there this season, like they get gritty wins like this where they continuously, I mean, in 12 games so far this season, they've held opposing teams to under 100 points. Do you know how crazy that is in the modern NBA? Like,
that's man.
Like that's ridiculous. That's like half their games. The other team hasn't scored 100 points, and they're 12-0. They are undefeated when they hold the other team to under 100 points, which clearly they're pretty good at doing. So yeah, I want to give Caruso a quick shout out because I know there have been some people up and down on him so far this season, but he's just brought so much to the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, both games and both these nights we held both Florida teams under 100 points. But yeah, I mean, there's not much more to add to Caruso. I mean, he's been a guy that, you know, there are nights like tonight, like he stuffed the stat sheet. He had 4 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Like he was all over the place, but there, like, it doesn't tell the full story of his impact and like the timeliness of the things that he does. Like I thought the best play of the game for Caruso was they sent a double at Shea at the top of the key. Shea recognized the double, flipped it to Caruso, who's in the dunker spot. Caruso, without looking, just touch past to Dub in the corner for the wide open three. Like I lost my mind at that pass. That was nasty.
That was an awesome play. Like that was one of the highlights of the game. That might have been the highlight of the game, probably. Like that was sick, man.
It should have been the dagger.
It should have been. I mean, he's just like such a smart player. He just knows where to be in spots. He knows how the offense is supposed to run. And that's also a good thing about this Thunder team. I feel like everybody knows exactly what they need to do. You don't see a lot of like insane moments where you're like, what the hell was that? You know, what are we doing? Even though there are times where the shots don't fall, you understand the process. And I think Caruso is one of those guys that really improves the process. And the shots are good a lot of nights. Sometimes they just don't go down. Like that was the case against the Bucks. Yeah, the game that never happened, but we're going to pretend it happened. Like the Thunder got great looks. They just weren't falling. And in today's league where teams shoot more threes than ever, you're going to have those nights. If you're going to live by the three, you're going to die by the three. That's a typical saying. But the Thunder's process is almost always good. It's very rarely bad. And Cruz is one of those guys I think really, even if he's not knocking down the shots, adds a lot to that process and makes it a lot smoother. And it's the same thing for iHeart. I mean, I think do you remember when people were saying that they didn't want iHeart because he wasn't really a shooter at the big man spot?
Yeah.
Yeah. Part of the reason why, because I understand that he's not really like a stretch big or anything like that. He's never been that. He's shot threes in his career, but hasn't done it much so far this season. Isn't really looking to super often. But it's kind of similar where even if like Cruz is not knocking down threes, he really improves everything offensively. Hartenstein improves the spacing in so many other ways with his screens, with the playmaking as well, because if you go ahead and give him a lot of space, you give him brand new angles to pass to. And, you know, we've seen it so many times this season where he throws a behind the back pass or someone starts cutting and he does like that little, like kind of like this type of pass, like down by his waist and like throws it really low, that bounce pass on the inside. Just another guy, man, who's been so good this season. The two of them, that play where they fought for the offensive rebound and got basically the dagger board. That was one of those moments where, you know, the picture of LeBron where it's like, I can't believe this is my life, smiling through it all. That's how I felt watching that. I was like, man, this is the off season. That's where it comes through.
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. If you look at the stats, iHeart had 5 offensive rebounds himself. Yeah. Everybody else was kind of like, you know, gang offensive rebounding. Caruso, Kenny, Dort, Dub all had 1. AJ Mitchell had 1, and then Shea had 2 as well. Like the Thunder as a whole had 12 offensive rebounds, so they were getting after it on the glass, and they actually different stat, but they forced the Miami Heat to. It says 18 turnovers. They were saying 19 on the broadcast, but I mean. I think they had 8 at halftime, so they really ratcheted it up in the second half in terms of like, you know, getting after the ball handler. But you know, iHeart's been great. You talk about the behind the back passing and the fancy passing, the confidence he has in his passing. I feel like anytime he does a DHO with Isaiah Joe, it's just never a normal pass. It's never just a handoff.
Yeah.
He's like bounce it between his legs or
he loves that behind the. He loves that pass. For some reason, that reminds me of all the times when we had Moose and Shea would always do the, you know, get the screen, like pick and pop where he rolls off to the side a little bit and then throws the behind the back pass to Moose for the 3. Like that play they would run over and over again. For some reason, it gives me those vibes where it's like, every time it happens, I'm like, oh, that was cool. Even though it happens like 6 times a game, I feel like.
Every time. Yeah. That's funny. I completely forgot that Shea used to do that because we don't see him do it anymore because we don't really have anybody that pops for him with Chet out.
Yeah, he does it with Chet. I know he did with Chet a few times last season, not nearly as much as Moose. That was like he and Moose's play. They just ran that all the time. They just freestyled it.
Yeah, that was great. Hey, shout out to Moose, by the way. I think I saw the other night that he ran the Ironman in Florida, and he completed it. So, hey, shout out Moose, doing big things out there.
Oh yeah! Shout out to friend of the podcast,
forever friend of the podcast. Yeah, Isaiah Hartenstein. You know, we talked about his impact of his passing, but like his work on the glass tonight, he had 18 rebounds, which I did quick research. I wasn't able to find anything because of course, the internet mixes the Thunder and the supersonic stats. So in terms of like single game rebounds, I couldn't like differentiate like where he stood out, but he's definitely up there. I saw Steven Adams or Serge Ibaka both had a 20-point rebound game. I think Steven had 2 actually. And then of course, how could I forget? Moses Brown had 23 rebounds in a game in the famous rebuilding year. So he's not quite there with some of those Thunder legends, but I mean his rebound has been nuts. This is his 9th double-double of the season. And how many games has he played now? Like 11?
I think it's 12. I think he's only missed a double-double in 2 of them. I'll check exactly. No, 11, you're right. Actually, I don't know what it's like. Is it counting? I don't know if when you Google stats, I don't know if it counts the NBA Cup game. Like, does it know to count that game or not?
That's a great question. I'm gonna pull it up on Reel and see what they got here. So 1, 2.
They got to figure something out about that. It's the same thing with the play-in. Why don't play-in stats exist anywhere? Why don't we have like a play-in stats category? There should be an NBA Cup final category. If you're going to add these new things, like they have to count for something. If you want people to care about them, you can't have the stats disappear into nothingness at the. I mean, for this NBA Cup final, I'm cool with it because we did not play well. But like in the future, when the Thunder win it next year and go ahead and 5-peat the next 5 NBA Cups, I'd like to see that somewhere. So,
yeah, it's 9 of 12. That's not including the Bucks game. He would have had 10 out of 13. So, went back and hand counted it. But yeah, the other thing tonight, it was good to see Dort get a shot back a little bit.
It was good, yeah.
It seemed like he was working his way up to that. The few games before the Cup final, and then of course he went ice cold. And then the Magic game, he wasn't great either. But tonight, 14 points, shot 4 or 5 from deep. And it feels like he doesn't take his shots quick ever. Like he gets the ball, he waits there, and he just shoots it over the guy. And it's like, it's maddening.
We have reached peak arc on his shot. Like it's we talk about Isaiah Joe moon balls. Lou Dort has like literally hitting the outer edges of the Milky Way type moon balls. It's crazy. There was that 1-3. I think it was against the Rockets that he hit over, I think it was Dylan Brooks, or it was over someone in like the corner. And I swear to God, it like literally almost hit the rafters when he put it up there. If the stadium's like if the arena ceiling was any lower, Lou Dort was going to go ahead and knock down a light or something like that. It's crazy, man. But yeah, on the season, he's shooting nearly a career best from 3. I don't think Google, I'm just looking up his stats, has this 4 for 5 game accounted for yet. But once it does, I mean, like that will be his, he will have his career high in 3-point percentage because he's at 39.2 right now. So he's going to go above that.
It's got him at 40.5 on Reel right now.
40.5. That makes sense. And it's crazy because it doesn't feel like his field goal percentage should be lower this season than, I guess maybe because he is taking like a ton more threes, or at least it feels like the 3 is really where he's focused his game. Yeah, he's shooting 8.2 times a night, 5.5 threes, and that's down a little bit from last year, and he only took 5 threes. So it probably is just more so mirroring his 3-point percentage at this point with the volume that he takes compared to his overall shot diet. But it's just like, it doesn't feel like he's only shooting 40% from the field, That's weird.
Yeah, that's Lou Dort special, man. Like, especially these past like couple of years, he's been just firing up from 3, and that's cool. Like that's the shot diet that I want from Lou, because in the past, when he drives, that's when bad things happen. So I will say he's been pulling up moonball middies here recently when he drives.
There's a few times where I think it was also the Rockets game where he hit one of them, and I was like, "Oh my! I can't believe that happened."
Yeah, it's nuts. It goes because he like bounces back and he shoots it straight up in the air and it comes down. Like that's nuts.
I don't understand. I'm someone who shoots like a high shot. Like my jumper when I hoop is also like kind of a moonball type look to it. But like I don't know. I just don't know how he gets the height on that thing. It's crazy to me. Especially
that close to the cup. Like that's nuts.
Yeah, like it's not like I get it more from 3, but when you pull it for a midi, and it's like a step back midi too. It's not even like he pulls it from like just inside the 3-point line. He gets basically to the paint, steps it out a little bit, does like a little bit of a hesitation, and then shoots it over from like the free throw line. And it literally goes like 30 feet up in the air and comes back down. I don't understand it, but it goes in. So I'm not going to complain.
If it works, it works. But Yeah, I mean, we kind of buried the lead. We mentioned him a little bit at the beginning, but I mean, we got to talk about the All-Star Jaylen Williams today, completely redeeming himself after the lackluster performance in the Magic game. He had 11 and 7, so he had 7 dimes, but tonight just absolutely took over the game. 33 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. That is a season high for points on the season. 48%, shot 4 of 7 from the three-point line, and just looked like a lot like the player that we thought we were getting kind of going into the season. Because, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I'm sure he would even say that I wouldn't say that he's struggled, but he hasn't stepped up in the way that a lot of people would expect him to, like going into year 3, especially after Chet went down and more responsibility was put on his plate. But tonight, like that was awesome. That was the performance that I've kind of been waiting on from him, because these past couple games specifically, he's had a lot of struggles. I think the Rockets game, he finished with 22, but obviously struggled against the Bucks, struggled mightily against the Magic. So it was nice to see him bounce back and have a scoring outburst like we've grown accustomed to seeing over the past couple of seasons. So, yeah, shout out Dub, or should I say Santa? I apologize. We've only got a few more days that I can say that. So shout out Santa.
Yeah.
He was deep in his bag tonight.
Yeah, you got to push the Santa agenda as long as you can. But yeah, shout out Dub, man. He's played at an all-star level this season when you take into account. I think he's legitimately been an all-defensive conversation type guy on that end. Offensively, the efficiency is still great. He is right under 50% from the field, 38.7% from 3, and that'll probably go up if you can take a look at the number for me after tonight's game, because, again, Google Stats isn't updated yet. 6 boards, right about 5 dimes. Dub's been awesome this season. He has been legitimately all-star caliber. I think if the Thunder continue to maintain this pace and we reach the all-star break and they're like clearly the 1 seed in the West, I really hope Dub gets that nod. And I think he will. I think the coaches will recognize the way that he's playing and he will get that recognition. He's going to be right there because the West is so tough. There's so many great players. I do think it helps that he's in the front court. I think if he was a guard, it would be like near impossible because there's just so many guards that are going crazy. Not that Dub isn't going crazy. Obviously he is, but like you talk about Shea, Luka, Steph is 100% going to end up in there. Kyrie's having a monster season. Devin Booker's been really good. De'Aaron Fox has been really good. John Morant's there now. He's back and healthy. Yeah. Like Harden might have a little bit of a conversation there. Anthony Edwards, I didn't even mention him so far. Like, it's wild how many great guards there are in the Western Conference. So the fact that he's a front court player is going to help. And I just really want to see him make it, man. I think he deserves it. What he's done this season has been crucial to us. And even though there have been some ups and downs recently, especially going through that late NBA Cup stretch, just without him, I don't know where we are at this moment. Because Shea's doing a lot of the heavy lifting. But every time we go to the bench, the only reason we even somewhat stay afloat a lot of nights is because of Dub. Yep.
No, absolutely. And you asked to look up his 3-point percentage. It's at 38.7 now.
38.7? Okay, cool. It's going to keep coming up.
Yeah, trending up, man. Work your way up to 40. I mean, it's always the free throw with him. Like, he's shooting 80% from free throw, but he's like right there on 50. He's like 49.4 on the field goal, 38.7 on 3-point. Like, he'll probably get 50. He could probably get 50, 40, 80, but that 90, that elusive 90.
Yeah, man, that's always kind of the thing that messes us up with some of our scores. Like, it's just, if we get close to that 90, like Chet last year was close. 3-point percentage tailed off a little bit towards the end of the year, but we couldn't get that free throw percentage quite there. It's weird because it's like 80%. You think of it and you're like, I'd like to see that number come up, but like making 8 out of 10 free throws, and I don't feel like it really doesn't feel like I see Dub miss that many. And then I look at him like 80 is not that great. I don't know. It's just one of those things where I feel like the expectations are so high with free throw shooters. I guess they are free.
It's also probably just because his volume is like so low. So
yeah, that's another thing that people have been talking about a lot recently is the Dub getting fouled thing. I know at the end of last game against the Magic, he had like a very animated conversation with the refs at the end and was trying to like understand, because there were a lot of plays. Like, again, I missed part of it because I was on that flight, but there were a lot of moments where Dub legitimately looked like he got fouled and just was not getting any respect from the referees. And he really does not. He only shoots 3.3 free throws a game. Like, that's kind of nuts. The fact that he goes inside as much as he does and attacks and only shoots, like, he gets less than 2 shooting fouls called per game.
Yeah, that's nuts, man. And then Mark had the banger quote in the post-game press conference where he said, "Fun fact: I shot as many free throws as Jaylen Williams did tonight." And he said, "I spent all night, called a couple of timeouts, clapped my hands, and did whatever. But Jaylen spent the night in the throat of the defense," which just crazy wording, by the way, Mark. But
Mark's gonna cook. He's coming with banger quotes. He doesn't have time. He's gotta get out there. Dub was out there in the throat of the defense. What can you say?
I mean, hey, if that's where he was, that's where he was. But I mean, as we said, given everything that was going against the Thunder, the back-to-back, the schedules, the 3 games of 4 nights, which I'm a stuck for. Like 3 games of 4 nights happened. I was thinking back on the lockout whenever we was playing like back-to-back games. Those were ridiculous. I think there was some like where they would play 4 games in 5 nights. That was ridiculous. But yeah, so this is like like a jam-packed schedule for today's NBA time. But back in the lockout.
Actually, kind of on that note, I just literally saw this stat from Nick Gallo. He said the Thunder will have traveled 12,500 miles for the 11 games that they've played since November 20th after tonight. The average NBA team travels 41,000 miles during a season, meaning that OKC has traveled nearly 1/3 of a normal 82-game schedule in just 11 games.
That's nuts.
Which is a lot. That's my one thing with the NBA Cup. I'm starting to become of the opinion that they need to not have it in Vegas because I think it just makes the scheduling really way too hard. And like the travel is just brutal. I mean, that's probably a big reason why. I mean, the Bucks also didn't have Dame tonight. I don't believe against the they didn't have Dame tonight. For some reason I was like I watched part of the game. I knew they didn't have Dame, but I had to make sure. They got blown up by the Cavaliers tonight, and the Cavs are just really good. And not having Dame is of course a reason. I'm sure the Bucks were also like exhausted from having to travel back from Vegas.
They didn't even have to play yesterday. The entire league played yesterday, except for the Bucks and I think the Cavs.
Yeah, like it's crazy how like they really set it up, and like the Thunder, who are one of the best teams in the NBA, like it feels very possible they could end up in that NBA Cup final, and they still schedule them to play a back-to-back coming out of when the NBA Cup final was scheduled for.
Yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous. I'm all for just. I don't know how they would do it, but I think you should just have it at like the playoffs, the top seed gets home court, because that's part of what's missing from the NBA Cup is the fan experience. Like, sure, it's cool, to go to Vegas and have everything there, but the games don't feel the same because. It's like Andrew Schleck talked about last year whenever, the Cup happened. Obviously, people were cheering for the Lakers when they were playing, but I think it was the Pacers and Bucks game before that. They was talking. He said that people were just cheering for basketball. Like they were cheering for every made bucket because there wasn't Pacers fans, there wasn't Bucks fans. It was just people there to watch basketball, and that's cool, but I don't know. There's just something missing with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, because it's supposed to be like a championship game. The NBA wants it to be considered a championship game, but if there's not that home atmosphere, it doesn't feel like it. Like I think part of the way you can make it have that big game feel is like if the Thunder are playing in OKC or the Bucks are playing Milwaukee, like that game's a big deal. Like I think that game feels way more important than in Vegas. Because in Vegas, it's like that doesn't really have an NBA community established yet. Maybe when they put a team there will be more fans. But even then, I'm going to, have investment if I go to a Knicks, I don't know, Knicks Cavs game or something like that. Like living up in New York City, I'm going to be really invested in a Knicks Cavs game. Those are 2 really good teams. but I'm not going to make that much noise. Like if like something cool happens, I'm going to go like, hey, or, you know, make a noise or something. Like I'm going to react, but I'm not going to be cheering or chanting MVP when someone's at the line. Like I'm not going to be doing all that stuff because I'm not a Knicks or Cavs fan. Like it's just kind of the way it is. So unless you have Thunder or Bucks fans, which also that's tough too, because those places are not very close to Las Vegas, especially Milwaukee. Like imagine a world where it's like, I don't know, I'm trying like Portland all the way up there in the Northwest. It's like Portland versus like Miami or something like that in a future NBA Cup game. Like that crowd's gonna be so dead because there's like at least the Thunder are like kind of close-ish. I know there were some Thunder fans that managed to go, and there are people that probably live in that area, but I'm sure there weren't many Bucks fans there, maybe like just Giannis or Dame fans. It's just, I don't know. I understand why they want to do it, to make it its own thing and be like, oh, it's a neutral site. Like that's kind of cool and different. But at the same time, it's like you want it to feel like a big game, so you need that atmosphere. And I just don't think Vegas is going to bring that.
Yeah, or like imagine if the Raptors make it. Like,
yeah, like and people are gonna have to come in from Canada to try and go to Vegas. Yeah, like it's not happening.
Yeah, I do want to, before we close the book on this game, I just do want to give a shout out to my boy Tyler Hero, Kentucky's own. Hero KC will never forget the movement. It's never happening now, but shout out him. I'm just so impressed at how much his like full game has matured. Like he went from being like a shooter / scorer to he had 12 rebounds tonight. He led their team in rebounds, and he had some really nice passes.
Yeah, Hero is. I mean, he's been clearly the Heat's best player this season. Like, it's really not even been a conversation. Bam has been disappointing. You know, Jimmy has his ups and downs. He's been good this season. But, I mean, Hero's been, like, legitimately their best player. He's cut out a lot of those middies. It's been a lot more of shoot the three ball or get downhill and attack. Like, there were a couple of times where tonight he pulled up for that midi, and you kind of need that counter against a great defense like OKC. But he's tried to eliminate a lot of the long twos from his game and just streamline it a little bit. And it's worked. I mean, he's having the best season of his career right now. And again, he's been firmly the best player for Miami. He deserves a lot of credit. He should be an all-star in the Eastern Conference this season.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting for. I wanted to hear what you thought about him possibly being an all-star. Because I know we talked about it a couple weeks ago on the phone, and you said that he's been playing like an all-star. I'm like, that's just crazy to think about. Tyler Hero in the all-star game. But
yeah, I mean, if I had to like pick my all-stars right now, like you can have up to. Like the thing is, because like I don't know if Franz isn't going to make it. Like I don't know if he's going to be ready to play, and I don't think they're going to put him in that. So I don't think Franz plays.
They might give it to him just to like give him the recognition and then do the injury replacement thing.
Maybe. So I could see like him maybe getting in. Paolo, I don't really know. It depends when he comes back. I don't know when he's coming back, but he's only played 5 games so far, so I don't know if he'll have played enough. Like you'll have. I think Mitchell and Garland will both be in that conversation. Like I think Derek White is in that conversation. Jalen Brunson, Dame will probably be there. But then like Hero's probably been the next best guard in the East. I guess LaMelo Ball too. He's putting up like 30 a night. But I really think Hero deserves another nod. I think if they give 6 guard spots, I would give it to Garland, Mitchell, Brunson, Dame, LaMelo, and probably Hero. I think. Yeah. Maybe Cade's. I guess Cade's also probably in that conversation too. Maxey might end up there. So he might not get it, but I'm personally like part of the Tyler Hero should be an all-star campaign because the Heat are nowhere near afloat if Hero isn't playing the way that he has so far this season. Like he has to be one. He's dropping 24, 5.5, and 5 a night on 48% shooting and 40% from 3. Like, he has to be an all-star, in my opinion.
Hey, I love it. Music to my ears. Shout out my guy Hero. I just had to – I know it's a Thunder podcast, but I just – he could have been a Thunder. We wanted him.
Hey, man, you need a hero.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know my songs I had with Chet All-Star and Misic, like Peaches. I had a full song ready for if we drafted Tyler Hero to Hero by Enrique Iglesias. So it was going to be great.
That would have been iconic.
Oh, we got a super chat here from Euro Thunder. It says, is it me or is Hero grown an inch or two since entering the league? He looks almost as tall as Duncan Robinson, who is famously 6'9", 6'8", 6'7", something like that.
Duncan Robinson? Duncan Robinson's like a 6'5", 6'6".
Are you sure? I thought he was taller.
You're right. He is 6'7". He is 6'7".
Yeah.
I thought
The
he
third
was
one I
kind of.
said.
We got there in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think Hero came into the draft at like 6'3". I'm pretty sure it's probably what he's listed at. But I mean, he looks bigger, and I don't know if he's necessarily got taller, but he's definitely put on some muscle in his time in the league. Oh, he's 6'5". He's getting
Hero?
there, then. Yeah.
Yeah, wear a couple more pairs of socks, man.
Hey, absolutely. You gotta do what you gotta do, right?
It's crazy. He's only 24. Like,
yeah. He's nuts, man. It's funny. Me and Tierney had this huge debate like back whenever that draft was happening. Like I was like the Thunder need Tyler Hero. Tierney's like the Thunder need Cam Johnson. And I said before the pod last week, I was like, I'm on your side. I want to trade for Cam Johnson. He's like, finally, I win. I'm like, it's only because we can't trade for Tyler Hero. He's entirely too expensive.
Yeah, he's been playing out of his mind, man. And it's funny because he was always the guy thrown in the trade rumors. It was always like, oh, Hero's going to be dealt in some deal. And now they're like, whoa. Like, I think they would trade him. He would be the second last player they trade. I think they still probably hold on Bam over everybody. But it's like, hey, Jimmy can go. Like, this guy can go, whatever. But we really don't need to trade Tyler Hero right now. And that's cool, man. That's cool career progression. You like to see that from a guy who's always thrown in rumors. And he just continues to stay. And he becomes the team's, one of their top guys.
Like it was looking like him and Duncan for Dame. That was the trade talk.
Yeah, and Portland's like, I don't know if we want Tyler Hero, and now they might be regretting it a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, shout out Anthony Simons though, putting the Nuggets to bed the other night.
Yeah, man. Unfortunately, over Russ, I literally had just tweeted out, "I'm so happy Russ has found a home for like this is awesome," and then he lets the blow by happen.
Not the cone curse.
Like literally immediately after, man. I set him up. That's on me. Although Jokic has to make some effort to come over and help, man. At least something. He just stood there like nothing happened.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to shout out in these games real quick. I don't think so. I think we touched on mostly everything. Yeah, shout out to the team's defense continues to be ridiculous. Someone in the chat earlier asked about the NBA adjusted defensive rating. Someone asked about if we were still like a historic defense. And yeah, the answer is yes, but I want to see specifically where we were on that one site. I don't remember what the site was called. What was the site called?
I don't remember. It was that one that Dolan told you, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna check in the group chat. I can find that link because I wanted to see. I know we've had a few games recently where we are.
Yeah, it was Texan by Nature 88. Shout out.
Yeah, where is? No, this is like photos. I found a picture with Jeremy Grant that convinced the entire world that I'm way taller than I am, which is dope.
Very nice, very nice. I mean, you are very tall, so like, don't get twisted.
Yeah, but I'm like 6'1". I'm not like some people after that thought I was like 6'5".
Well, man, take it and run, man.
I mean, I'm not going to tell people on the timeline. Like, if you listen to this, you can know that I'm not actually that tall, but I'm not going to tell people in the timeline. Yeah, you can go ahead and answer that question. I'm going to try and find this.
Okay, yeah. While Cone's looking for this, I'll answer this question from Yanni. It says, question, does Dub not get free throws because a lot of his shots are those falling backward pull-ups where he creates a lot of separation? I mean, I would say that, it's hard to reward somebody foul shots off of those shots, but specifically the Magic game, like shout out Clemente at CL Monza on Twitter. I think it's CL Monza 1007, if I'm not mistaken. But he put together a compilation of just some of the drives that Dub had against the Magic, in which there was a lot of contact. Like, I understand like a couple of them, like, being no calls, but like there was some that like Suggs got shot at him like a heat-seeking missile. And, just no call because and with that specifically, it might just be because of the difference in size and physicality. Like Dub was going like full speed up the court and Suggs, just kind of met him in the air. kind of went straight up, but there was a lot of contact there. So I just think it's I don't know. I think it's just kind of like without like lack of a better term, a lack of respect. We saw the same kind of thing with Shea as he was coming up in the league. Like he's always been this slithery. He's always been this good at finishing through contact, at drawing contact. But if you remember, specifically the first year with Chris Paul and the year after that, he really struggled to get to the line, and it was extremely frustrating. And to Shea's credit, he didn't complain. He kept his head down. He might glance at the official's way, but he was never taking himself out of the play to complain about it. But he also went through the same struggles, and now he has the label of free throw merchant from NBA Casuals that with his ability to draw fouls. So I think it's a matter of time before Dub starts to get the respect that he needs to get to the foul line. I don't think he's ever going to be on Shea's level or anything like that, as long as he's on the Thunder playing with Shea. But I do think it will come with time. It's kind of like a reputation thing. Specifically, like if he gets an All-Star this year, I don't even know what's going to happen this year. But next year, if he gets the All-Star this year, he'll start to get some of that reputation, some of that recognition, and get a few more calls.
Yeah, in the NBA, getting calls, it's all about reputation. That's just the way it is. It probably shouldn't be, but you kind of have to build that up. So, yeah, I think it's just a matter of time before he gets a little bit more respect there. Defense is still like second all time, according to that adjusted defensive rating for the person who asked. So, yeah, it really should not be like depending on how many All-Star appearances or stuff you have to get calls. Like I feel like I remember because there was a point where we were complaining about Shea not getting calls. Like before, I mean, even still feels like he doesn't get probably as many as he deserves with how much he drives. But like I remember when he first was starting to take that rise to stardom, it's like, what does Shea have to do to get a free throw, man? Like he's just getting destroyed out there. And then he kind of built this reputation as, he's now one of the better guards in the league. And then it's like, okay, we'll give him some more shots. And he finally got closer to what he deserves. And then the free throw narrative came along. So it's just the way it goes. The pendulum swings back and forth in the NBA.
Of course. And, well, daggone, I clicked on the wrong one. Something popped up as soon as I said it. But Yanni also says, will Dub get a better whistle if he makes the All-Star game? Club should hire a Russian bot farm and vote for Dub tomorrow with triple votes. Cone is tagged the Swifty Army. Jaylen Williams.
I'm doing everything I can. I'm doing it. I'm going to say that I might tweet out that Jaylen Williams is a big K-pop fan. Like, whatever I got to do, man. I'm going to try and do everything I can to get Dub as many votes. It's probably not going to be enough to get him as a starter, but we're going to try and push the narrative. We're going to show the coaches when they decide who goes on the bench, who should be on the team, and hopefully they listen.
Yeah, there you go. And we also have a super chat here from Euro Thunder once again. It says the NBA sometimes has a WWE feel to it. Stars get consideration calls on offense or no calls on defense. J-Dub isn't there yet. Yeah, I definitely agree. And, it goes both ways. Like, some players have built up such a reputation that they have more leeway to get away with stuff. Like Draymond Green gets away with more than any other player in the NBA. Like he has his line is pushed farther than any other player when it comes to what he's able to do without drawing a technical foul. Because if say Jaylen Williams was in refs like in officials' face like Draymond Green is like after every play, Dub's getting a tech like pretty quickly, but like it's like they're conditioned to know, to kind of give Draymond a longer leash.
Yeah, which is annoying, but it's the way it goes. Another Shea stat on the free throw front: he's got the second most games this season with 25 plus points and less than 5 free throw attempts. So
there you go.
Just another one, if you're curious.
Yeah, I think DCFNF was mentioning that there. So yeah, just want to acknowledge you in the chat there. All right, yeah, we talked about the back-to-back. Thunder back on track. We're still one of the best teams in the league. Have the second best record in the league, 22-5. Shout out, 8-game win streak. What we said, but is there a way to get better? Is there a way to push this thing a little bit? We're going to talk some potential trades on the other side of this break. And we're back after this break. Guys, it's me, Thunder Chats. It's him, Cone. We are talking. He's literally him. We are talking Oklahoma City Thunder. We just won our back-to-back. Now we're going to talk potential trades. So, Cone, we was talking before the pod. You didn't actually get to see this, but I tweeted out earlier. But yesterday, is it still yesterday? Yeah, yesterday, Kevin O'Connor put out an article about 7 potential trades for the Thunder, 7 potential trade targets for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, before we get started, I just want to say, do the Thunder need a trade? Like, do we need a trade to become contenders? No. I think that we are firmly a contender as constructed. With that being said, can we get better? Like, example, I thought about writing an article about this, and I'm not. I just don't have time. But this is an example I was going to have. My fantasy football league, we have no trade deadline until the playoffs, right? So I have a really strong team. Like, my wide receivers are great. I got Saquon as my number 1 running back. I got George Kittle at tight end. Freaking Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Cortland Sutton at wide receiver. So, like, I'm stacked. I had Kyler Murray and Caleb Williams as my 2 quarterbacks. Could I have won a Super Bowl with that team? Maybe. Like, I had a chance. But I wanted to cement my chances. So I went out and traded for Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. And now I feel really good about my chances with that team. So, could I have won? Sure. Did I get better? Absolutely. Could the Thunder still win the championship right now? Absolutely. But could they get better? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, let's talk about some of these targets. So, Cone, you said you didn't see the article. So, I'm going to throw these names out here, and I'm going to kind of get your take, and we'll talk about them one by one. And people in the chat, if you have any suggestions for people that you want the Thunder to trade for, please drop them in here. Oh, we do have, I guess we'll get started with one in the chat because he's mentioned this a couple times. Well, he said, thank you, Cone. I clicked on the wrong one. Texan by Nature said, welcome. Jimmy to OKC. And Cone, how do you feel about Jimmy Butler in OKC?
Real quick, is he listed in the article?
He's not listed in the article. This is just
okay. I wasn't sure if he was listed there too. I'm not really a fan. Jimmy's cool. He's a really, really good player. I just don't want to give up assets for a 36-year-old who we're going to have to pay going into this summer. Especially not someone who's going to ask for like $45-50 million. And also to actually make the money work, we have to give away pieces. The reason a guy like Cam Johnson is interesting to trade for, and I'm sure he's going to be in that article, is because he doesn't make much money. And so we really don't have to give anything too significant away to make the deal work. So it's one of those things where, you got to kind of pick and choose. Jimmy Butler is the better player than a lot of other options, but I don't want Jimmy Butler as the guy that we go after at the deadline. I much rather would have a, Cam Johnson, for example. So,
well,
also Jimmy's not really like this big time 3-point shooter. And the whole thing that we need is more 3-point shooting. Like that's kind of the big thing. It feels like we need a little bit more of, or a little bit extra creation. Jimmy brings the creation, he can knock down threes, but he's not the volume shooter I want to trade for, especially not a guy that we're gonna have to gut some of our roster for to make the money work. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy would add to this team, like for sure. He would add toughness. He would add experience. He would add another bucket getter, in the half court, and just a playoff riser, like one of the best playoff risers of all time, I would say, compared to his regular season. But yeah, like you said, all the complications, the contract, the assets, the fact that he's probably going to be a rental, it's just not worth it. Would it be fun? Yeah. Sure, absolutely. But no.
To me, it might. There's a chance it ends up as like a hyper-powered Gordon Hayward trade from last year, where it's like, yeah, we get like a good player, and Jimmy's way better than Gordon Hayward, obviously. But it's like, he's here for the end of the season, then he's just gone.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so we're gonna start with the guy you already mentioned, and I think he's one of the favorites amongst Thunder fans. He's my favorite trade target right now as well. So Cam Johnson, Brooklyn Nets. KOC says at 6'8", Johnson's a knockdown movement shooter who's making 43.3% of his threes this season. He's not a lockdown defender, but he at least would provide some needed size. Cone, how do you feel about trading for Cam Johnson?
I love trading for Cam Johnson. He is also my top target that is out there right now. For people that don't know, Cam is having an unbelievable season, 19 points per game. That's a career high, 48.9% shooting from the field. That's a career high. 43.1% from three. Second highest mark of his career, only behind 2023, where he only played 17 games and shot 45.5%. Everything is basically a career high across the board. Career high 3.1 assists as well. He's being used more in Brooklyn, and rather than the numbers dropping, like it happens for a lot of guys when their usage goes up in a situation like that, the numbers are going up. They're rising, and the efficiency is staying alongside what you want to see from Cam. And Cam has proven that he can do it in a smaller role, and I don't think it's going to cost that much to get him. Like, to get Cam, it's probably like maybe it's probably Ooze, and I know the Zhang gang would hurt our hearts, but it's probably
I'm willing to send him for Cam.
That's fair. It's probably what Ousmane Dieng and like a first round pick. Maybe if they're asking for 2, throw them 2. I don't care. Like, we've got 47. I don't care to throw 2 first round picks for Cam, who is one of the best role playing 3-point shooting or best 3-point shooting role players in the entire league right now. He's been actually ridiculous so far this season. He's shooting 7.6 threes a game and knocking down 43%. We want to talk about a volume shooter. That's exactly what Cam brings to the table. He's not the best defender in the world. That's true. It's a good thing we have like 5 or 6 of the others best defenders in the world to put around him. He gives us some more size as well. That's one thing I do think we need to add, or that would be cool to add, is like a bigger wing. That's exactly what Cam can go out there and do. Yeah, man, I don't see any harm in going ahead and trading for him. And if you're wondering at all about the contracts, I'm sure people are going to ask about that. Cam right now is on a contract. He makes $22.5 million this year. He makes $20 million the year after, and then $22 the year after. So it's 3 years of basically the same amount of money, around 20. And that's the kind of value you want to see from like a high level role player like a Cam Johnson. And that's not going to really handicap us or anything. He's only 28 right now, so he'll be 30 by the end of that contract. So it's not like he's going to rapidly regress. Cam he would make such a difference for this team. It'd be unbelievable. Texan by nature in the chat. Can Cam defend? He's like, okay. He's not a great defender, but he will put in the effort. And I think any weakness he shows defensively, I almost picture him as like Wiggs, who has some really good defensive moments, but he's definitely one of the weaker defensive links on our team. But he's going to put in a lot of effort. And when you put him next to like 5 or 6 all defensive caliber players like the Thunder have, it's really not that big of a deal at all. I could not get that sentence out. So I'm just too excited about the idea of trading for Cam Johnson. He is my favorite possible addition. Yeah, they're hard sometimes. Even though I do it for a living, it's difficult.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm trying to find. So Rylan Stiles actually put out an article talking about this. He actually, I wanted to read this verbatim because I was kind of shaky on his defense as well. People keep saying, "Oh, he's not a good defender," but Rylan Stiles was one to point this out. He said, "So especially if Mark Daignault prefers not to play the Maryland product in big game for defensive purposes," talking about Aaron Wiggins. He said, Cam Johnson is leaps and bounds a better defender than either, meaning Aaron Wiggins or Isaiah Joe, and gives Oklahoma City more size as well as shooting threat at the 4 position. So even though Cam Johnson isn't a lockdown defender, he's, especially this season, he's considered a better defender than Isaiah Joe or Aaron Wiggins. And, in this scenario, let's talk about this. So we had, where's he at? DCF&F said we need to match money. So in order to match money, there's a couple ways to go about it. You can do Kenny and Ooze in picks for Cam Johnson, and that's the preferred trade. Like if they're able to do that, like I will throw 2 firsts in that deal in order to make it happen. Not great first. Like I would do our pick this year, our own pick, and also the Jazz pick, because I just don't think that's ever gonna like convey into anything good. Like that's like a fake first to me. I'd throw those at them. Ousmane Dieng, like I love Ooze and I still believe in him, and I think that this is an opportunity for him to grow and take this opportunity. And then Kenrich Williams is a guy that anybody would kill to have in their locker room. But if you don't want Kenrich Williams, it comes down to Aaron Wiggins or Isaiah Joe with their extension. You can't trade them until January 15th because, when they sign their extension. But it's going to come down to one of them. And if you're picking one of them, I know it hurts. It's like picking your favorite child. But if it's me, I'm keeping Isaiah Joe because he has an elite skill as a movement shooter. Aaron Wiggins, while he's great, while they say basketball, it's a fun meme, he's a jack of all trades guy. He does a little bit of everything good, but he's not elite at any one thing. And again, like, kind of going back to Ousmane Dieng, I think that, we're seeing him catch not DMPs, but, he played like 6 minutes against the Bucks the other night in that game that didn't happen. He sees his minutes dwindling down in certain matchups. And it's kind of a product of, the logjam of guards that we have on this team. So if you were to ship out Aaron Wiggins, it would give him an opportunity to grow. And it would also, free up minutes for Casey Wallace and Isaiah Joe to step up even more. I'll get to that question in a second. Cone, if you had to choose, say they don't take Kendrick Williams, they want somebody a little bit younger with Isaiah Joe or Aaron Wiggins, who are you sending with Ousmane Dieng and picks for Cam Johnson?
Man, don't ask me to pick. Don't ask me to do that. Man, I don't know. I really don't know. I guess I lean slightly trading away Wiggins, like just ever so slightly, just because I think there's less of a fit at this point with him on the team. Not that he's not a bad, he's a good fit with the team. It works, but I just think Cam Johnson comes in and kind of fills the minutes we want from Aaron Wiggins, I think. And so then I feel like he almost becomes redundant in a way, and it hurts both his growth and ability as a player, as well as, complicates things because now we don't have the guy who typically would play Isaiah Joe's role. So I think giving up Wiggins, who, you trade him for a bigger forward, someone that can shoot a little bit better, who's a little bit more reliable. You trade Wiggins for Cam Johnson. I think that probably makes the most sense.
Okay, so we're on the same page. Now, I want to ask you this because I have a vision.
Okay.
So Anthony Minzer asked, think Cam would start if we trade for him. We also got the same question from Texan by Nature 88. And my answer is yes. I think that if you trade Cam Johnson, specifically with Chet out, you start him as like that 3-4 spot. So your starting lineup is now Shea, Dort, Dub, Cam, and Isaiah Hartenstein. What this does is a few things. It gives you legitimate shooting in the starting lineup for Shea and Dub specifically. Again, like his defense is up there with Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe, but you have enough good defenders on the court, like your best defenders on the court, sans Case and Wallace, around him to mask that. And what it also does, I think it gives – you don't have that carousel of Case Wallace, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, starting in the starting lineup, not knowing what the role is on any given night. You have defined roles for those guys, including Alex Caruso. So Caruso kind of steps up in a bigger role now because, we have more minutes off the bench. And then Case and Wallace gets a bigger role. Isaiah Joe gets a bigger role. They know their roles going into it. And in that, maybe they can catch a rhythm in their role like they haven't been able to necessarily see this season because it's been a lot of herky-jerky in terms of like you're starting, you're playing this many minutes, you're closing the game, you're not closing the game. It's kind of like breakneck. So that's my vision for having Cam start, but I'm willing to listen to other opinions. Yeah,
I wonder what it would look like. My big question is like, I guess, what does it look like when everybody's healthy if you add Cam? I guess – like, does he come up? Maybe it's one of those things where it's still a rotating thing, and it's like some games you have Shea, Dort, Dub, Chet, and Ihart, like you do all like the two bigs. Some games you have Chet at the 5, and Ihart comes off the bench, and Cam Johnson starting. I think it's probably that. I think I feel pretty good about Shea. Obviously, it's going to be Shea, Dub, and Chet. I don't think they're going to move Dort out of the starting lineup. I just don't see them doing that. And I don't really think they should. I think they need that like lockdown POA guy in there. And yeah, I mean, I guess it's probably I just saw Euro Thunder in the chat say Shea, PG, Dub, shooting guard, Cam small forward, Chet power forward, Isaiah Hartenstein center. I just don't think they should move Dort out. I think you need Dort in that lineup. That is like a great size lineup. You have so much size in that lineup. Like people want to talk about the Thunder being undersized. 6'6" point guard, 6'5" shooting guard. Cam Johnson's what, like 6'7", 6'9"? It's somewhere in that range. Either 6'7", 6'8", or 6'9".
6'8", I think.
I might have landed right there around the two. And then you have two like legitimate 7-footers in Chet and Nyhart at the big man spots. You want to talk about size? That is size. And that's the cool thing about the Thunder too, is Cam Johnson would add another layer of versatility where, I mean, also in that lineup, like, you know, if you want to go one of those bigs, you could throw Caruso in there. If you want another high-level defender, you could throw Kaysen in there. If you want a little bit more shooting, you could throw Isaiah Joe. Like, there's so many different ways you could go. We want to talk about the Thunder having versatility now. Cam just had so much, man. He is like the ideal guy. It's going to break my heart and like devastate me if he gets traded to another Western Conference contender. If he goes out east, whatever, you know, it's fine. But if he goes to another different Western Conference contender, I'm going to be so sad because I've been such a fan of his game for a while now, and especially this season. And he's not a player I want to face in the playoffs at all.
That's the other side of this coin is, you know, if you don't trade for him, like he's getting traded. Like somebody mentioned, like the Nets are trying to capture the flag. Like they traded off Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder and Cam Johnson are the reason the Nets have been as competitive as they have been this season. They've kind of been the adults in the room, and Dennis is gone. Cam is next up. Like he is. I don't know if you saw the Young Man of the Three podcast. Cam Johnson and Sue Bird were talking about you know, what it's like being on a rebuilding team, and Cam gave a really insightful answer. And you know, he talked about you know, kind of the struggles of, you know, what it's like being a player in a rebuilding team. You can tell it's kind of like taking a toll on him. And he's a guy that's been on a competing team. Like he was on that Phoenix Suns team that, you know, went undefeated in the bubble and then, you know, came back and
made the finals.
You know, started.
He was on a 67-win team at one point.
Finals.
Like he was an integral player to a team that won 67 games. Cam's so good. He's so good.
And the big key with him is like why he's playing good now is he's healthy again. Like he finally is like fully healthy. And I want to end this conversation with this. I'm not going to say who said this because I'm not going to portray a stress, but I'm just going to say that somebody that is in the know, somebody that's been on our podcast before, we've had millions of guests, so that does not narrow it down, mentioned that Cam is a buddy of mine. He says his dream is to play for the Thunder. He loves small towns and he loves the team. So, Sam Presti, make his dreams come true. Make our dreams come true. Make Matt Tierney's dreams come true. Let him have a target.
Man, we can't let him have a target. You already got all your Kentucky guys, man. We had a UVA guy, Ty Jerome, and we got rid of him, and now he's like a 6th man of the year candidate in Cleveland, bro. I can't have shit around here. It just doesn't happen.
Kind of sick about it. Yeah,
hey, DeAndre Hunter is putting up like 20 a game off the bench. It's fine. I got something going on.
He dunked on Wemby.
Man. He dunked on Wemby.
You're leaving here something.
I'm leaving here with something, bro.
All right. Well, that was kind of the big fish in KOC's article. I mean, that's the most popular one. So we'll probably rip through these a little bit faster. I'll start at the top here. And this is a guy that I've been able to rely on a lot with my sports betting picks. He's been old reliable. John Collins for the Utah Jazz this year says Collins is averaging 18 points, nearly having a 50-40-90 season by shooting 53% from the field, 43.6% from three, 88.8% from the line. Collins would be insurance if Homer can't get back healthy, and they could play together even if he comes back better than ever. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I like Collins as a pickup. Just straight from like a player perspective, a couple issues that make it a little bit. I definitely don't like him as much as Cam Johnson. A couple issues are bigger contract, $26.5 million for him. He does have a player option.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he does have a player option this summer, which I feel like he'll probably accept. Although I don't think it's a guarantee. He's not going to get $26.5 million, which is what his player option is for next season in the open market, like yearly. But I could see a world where he's coming off this year where right now he's proving he can still be a really good player. And I could see him being like, okay, I want to secure more long-term money coming off this great season and not risk it. And maybe he declines the player option and goes out there and negotiates. Like if he got like a 4 for 80 mil or 485 or 490 or something like that, it wouldn't surprise me. Like, I think that's very attainable for what he's done so far this season, which again, legit, like nearly 50, 40, 90 guy putting up like 18 points per game. I like John Collins. I think he'd be a fun piece for this team. I definitely would not hate it. And if you want to just pick up someone quick, he's probably not that. It's probably cheaper to trade for John Collins than it would be for Cam Johnson. But I would prefer we just spend the extra assets and go get Cam, who I think fits better with this team. And I just like a little bit better as a player. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. And what I think KFC is missing with this, because he has also in his article, he has Larry Nance, and we'll talk about him in a second, but he also has Pascal Siakam. What I think he's missing is the Thunder don't really need depth at the big man position at this point. Like, Jaylen Williams is coming back any day now. Chet Holmgren will be back this season. We have Isaiah Hartenstein, and Kendrick Williams is a great small ball big. And if nothing else works out, we have an all-star that can play center in the other Jaylen Williams, and Dub, Santa, whatever. So the needs aren't really a big man like it was, last year, like everybody wanted to make it out to be. It's more so shooting and shot creation, playmaking off the bench from when Shea is off the court. So, with that being said, Larry Nance, Kevin, how do you feel about him?
Larry Nance is solid. Doesn't move the needle a ton for me. He's been good this season when he's played. He's putting up around 10 points per game, 62% from the field, 60% from three, given that's very low volume on the 3-point shot. So he's not like a sniper or anything like that. I guess he is taking 3.2 a game. It's not terrible over the course of 11 games so far this season, but he's picked up some DNPs here and there. That has happened. He's fine. If we wanted to just say somehow Chet came back at the beginning of January, just boom, suddenly Chet's back. And then we're just playing out of our minds and nothing looks wrong, but we just want to add one little insurance piece. I think Larry Nance would be fine. If we really wanted to add someone small, but in my opinion, if we're going to go out there and make a move, make a move, and Larry Nance feels like someone who's going to come in here and he's not really going to play much. He's kind of just an insurance piece. He's the boring move. If the Thunder, last year, of course, everyone's oh, could they make the big star trade? Obviously they didn't go out there and do it. They made a little bit of a bigger move by adding Gordon Hayward, but if they just really went with the most, that would be the minuscule option. They're I guess we'll do something. We'll trade some asset. We'll just do something to shake it up a little bit. But honestly, Larry Nance might just be shaking it up for the point of shaking it up.
Yeah, I'm really against doing a move on the fringes and actually playing that guy. If you're just fortifying your depth and just to have depth, cool. But I don't want another Gordon.
He's also old. Do you know how old Larry Nance Jr. is?
He's pretty old. He's what, 29?
He turns 32 in 10 days.
Oh my god.
I never would have guessed Larry Nance Jr. was 32 years old. I would have said 20, 29 would have literally been my guess. It was 28, 29. The fact that he's 32 is crazy to me as well. So that worries me, when you bring in an older player.
Yeah. Angry Patrick. And he doesn't even have crazy playoff experience either. He was on the LeBron teams, right?
He was on the end of LeBron Cavs tenure team.
Yeah, so otherwise, not great playoff experience. Well, you're talking about not a move from the fringes. This would qualify as that. Pascal Siakam.
Yeah, man.
And he mentions that the Pacers just traded for him, but since the franchise has now taken steps back, maybe they'd be willing to take on multiple role players and a pile of draft picks.
It's interesting. I'm not really for it. I don't really think we need another star. I think we just need an extra role player, Cam. And Cam's that superstar role player type guy. Siakam's having a great year. 20 points per game, 53% shooting, 42% from deep, 7 boards, 3.5 dimes. Siakam is really, really good. The problem is he's obviously going to be making a lot more money than either of the players or any of the players that we've talked about so far. He's making $42 million this year, $45 million the year after, $48 the year after. And when he turns 33 in 2028, $52 million. I'm good. I'm so good on that. I like Siakam's game. He's really good. But I'm completely good on that. I don't need Siakam's $52 million in the books when we're going to have Shea, Chet, and Dub to continue to pay. And Isaiah Hartenstein. I would much rather hold on to that money down the line to be able to retain Isaiah Hartenstein after this deal wraps up than give it to Pascal Siakam.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, and I think the inclusion of Pascal Siakam is just an overcorrection of not having anybody to guard Giannis, and like them just like trying to throw somebody on the Thunder team to be a Giannis stopper. Because if you look at our team, like we are kind of built to guard like the Luka Doncic's, like the Anthony Davis or Edwards of the world, and even the big man, like we're built to guard Nikola Jokic, Anthony Davis, guys like that, but. Giannis is just kind of like a conundrum that we don't really have anybody to kind of go mano with. So if you brought in Siakam, like that would be his assignment. And, as Euro Thunder was talking about in the chat, he's done good in the past on it. But for all the reasons you said, I'm 100% in agreement. Way too much money. And, too old of a guy to like spend your assets.
Yeah, that's something that the Thunder could have done a couple of years ago, and I would have been excited about. But at this point, it's just like, I'm not really into it. Interesting question in the chat. DCFNF said, if you had to pick one, who would you trade for, Herb Jones or Cam Johnson? For this Thunder team, I'd take Cam. Just because Herb, while he is a pretty solid three-point shooter at this point in his career, it's not on a lot of volume, and he's very much like a set three-point shooter who can knock them down when he gets past the ball. Although this season, I mean, the three-point shot is down to 32%. And I think a lot of that is the fact that the Pelicans have been so beat up, they have nobody to actually get him the ball. It would be better on the Thunder, but like, sure, he's this all-world defender, but we're already one of the best defenses of all time. Yeah, I mean, Euro Thunder just put it the best in the chat. We need Cam's offense a lot more than we need Herb's defense. As great as Herb is, he's one of the best wing guard defenders in the world. We've got Dub, we've got Shea, we've got Dort, we've got Kaysen, like Caruso. We have all those great defenders for those types of positions. I would much rather take the big offensive punch with Cam Johnson, and I think it costs you less to get Cam than it would cost you to get Herb Jones. And by the way,
that's kind of
people keep drawing up these Herb Jones trades, like not really the Thunder fan base as much, but I've seen a lot of other fan bases. He is not getting dealt. The Pelicans, even though they're imploding, unless the team offers like 3 first-round picks, Herb Jones is not getting dealt. He's one of the best defenders in the world at a young age. He's shown that he can be a very highly impactful winning player and a shooter when he's set up. Like, they're not going to deal him. They would trade Zion and Ingram and all those other guys before Herb Jones. So,
yeah, no, 100%. Like, I think that, as you guys said, like Cam's offense is shooting like much more important to the Thunder, but also I think Herb Jones would just be an embarrassment of riches because we already have really good defenders. We have a guy that was first team all defense last year, and that was Caruso. We have a guy that is deserving of all defense in Lou Dort, and also probably Jaylen Williams. And Case Wallace is like right there, man. Like we already have like just
and Chet's coming back
crazy
too.
stable of defenders. Yeah,
we have all the defenders in the world. Give me an offensive jump. That's the only one. I think this team is going to make it to the finals. But the only the slightest thing that worries me is if the shooting really goes cold again, like we saw last year against Dallas. Like the defense is always going to be there, but you need that shooting, especially if you try to face Boston. That is a team that can pepper you with threes and just run you out of the building. You need to add more reliable shooters if you're going to make a move. Like I would much rather Cam is someone I can rely on way more than Herb. So.
Yeah, and the only way I'd be willing to like trade for Herb is if he was made available, and another team like the Mavericks or the Nuggets or somebody like that was going after him. I'd be like, all right, let's go lock this up so we don't have to face Herb in the playoffs anymore.
Yeah, not having to face Herb would be nice. I can't lie.
All right, we talked about shooters, but we also I mentioned creators, shot creators, and creating for your teammates off the bench. These are a couple of guys that KOC put on there. First was Colin Sexton. Said by no means is Sexton the biggest name, but he provides a spark anytime the ball's in his hands. He's a good shooter off the catch, and at age 25, he fit OKC's timeline too. I am shook that Colin Sexton is just 25.
I know, right? That's crazy. I would love Colin Sexton on this team. If we don't get like a Cam Johnson, if we would rather go for like a shot creating guard type guy, I still take Cam over Sexton, but Sexton's so good. He is a player that people are going to realize how good he is when he gets traded. Right now, people don't realize because he's playing in Utah on a bad team, how good Colin Sexton is. I'll just read you all the stats. But I don't even think it's going to provide the full scope of things. 17 points per game, 49% shooting, 44% from 3, 2.5 rebounds, 3.3 assists. Sexton is so fun, man. He is such a good player, and I really just can't wait till he gets over to a new destination because I really feel like that's going to change everything for the perception of him. And once you get him out of Utah, I think his game could only improve, because this year, like, the defense has been pretty bad from Colin Sexton this season. But I think that also just has to do with the fact that Utah's defense is bad. Like, that's just a terrible team overall. If you put him in this system, I think it would work a lot better. And I think at some point, sometime this season, someone will trade for him and he's going to be really good. I think the Thunder probably lean away from him a little bit because we've got a billion guards. Even though I wouldn't mind another shot creator, I think that'd be cool to have, and it would be a little bit of an improvement, which I think we could utilize. But if I have to pick one, I think I go Cam over Sexton.
Okay, well, hey, if you want a shot creator, Count, KOC has
I know you mentioned him earlier.
one of the best. Cam Thomas, the gunner out of Brooklyn Nets. I mentioned, one of the reasons that Brooklyn's been so competitive is because Dennis Schroeder and Cam Johnson. It's also been Cam Thomas where he's gone toe-to-toe with some of the best scorers in the NBA and has been able to, carry them to the finish line. There's also been games he's absolutely shot them out of games. So how do you feel about Cam Thomas on the Thunder count?
Man, Cam is like such an enigma to me. Like, I cannot understand Cam Thomas for the life of me. Because when you take a look at the numbers, you're like, this is a star player in the making. He is 23 years old. He's younger than I am. And he's putting up 24.7 points per game, shooting 39% from deep. Like, Cam Thomas is a bucket. If you want to talk buckets, Cam is a bucket. The problem is he just hasn't been a top tier player on any like really good teams. And I'm not saying that Cam Thomas can't be, because I mean, all the stats show that he is someone that could absolutely be a ridiculous force on like any team. But it just worries me a little bit that he comes to the Thunder and all of a sudden it's like, oh, he's not as good as he looked when he was playing for like one of those worst teams. It depends what the price is. Because the good thing about Cam Thomas, well, good and bad, because Cam Thomas is going to have to get paid. Like, you have to pay him coming up here soon. It might be is it this summer or next summer? I think it's this summer. It is. Yes, this summer he's going to be a restricted free agent. So you're going to have to pay him. And that's the problem, is I think with the type of numbers that he's able to put up, even if it's not Brooklyn, like, someone will throw money his way. So how much are you willing to, match? Because a 23-year-old who's able to average like 25-ish points per game, that guy is going to get like $20 million or so on the market. And that's a little bit concerning to me because, again, we don't know how he's going to look. And I also feel like with Brooklyn, like, he's one of their more valuable assets. When he is a young player putting up the numbers that he is, I think Brooklyn doesn't have any reason to part from him because they're starting to lose games now. And he's been injured as well as of late. He's not played in their last, 3, 6, 9 games. It's been a little bit since he's been out there. I don't remember when he's supposed to return from that injury because it was a hamstring. I think that they said he's trending towards a return. So it's almost over, the injury. So maybe he goes out there and hoops a little bit and then they try to trade him. But I think Brooklyn's going to ask for a lot for Cam. So that's kind of my issue there. And I don't really want to have to play that gambling game of how much is Cam Thomas going to get paid on the open market, and then have to match that. In terms of player here, I think he'd be a better fit than some people realize because he's not going to give you a lot defensively. That's just not really his thing. But you just want to talk straight buckets and more shot creation. Cam can absolutely do that for you.
Yeah, you're a Thunder said we gave iHeart $30 million. We better give Cam Thomas $20 million.
I mean, like, we could. It's just I worry because, again, we haven't seen him in one of those situations quite yet where he's, one of the top options on a winning squad. So that not that I think he'll be bad in that situation. I just don't know if he's as effective. So I worry it's a little bit of like you get stuck in that position where, like, I mean, I think a team could throw him $30 million. I think that's a real possibility in restricted free agency. I think a team could throw him $30 million because they're like, hey, this 23-year-old who can put up 25 points per game. Like, I'm trying to think of a team like the Pistons. You tell me the Pistons won't throw Cam Thomas $30 million. I don't know if that works for their contract. I don't remember their cap space. I think that wouldn't work for them. But like the Pistons would throw him $30 million. If I'm the Spurs, I consider that, getting a young bucket getter to put next to Wemby, I'd throw him a lot of money too. I think any number of teams that have money would be interested in throwing him a good bit. And so if you're the Thunder, are you willing to put that on your books when it's like, we got to pay Chet and Dub here soon, and Shea's going to be due for a big contract at some point? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, Rockets go get Cam Thomas. They need some offense.
Yeah, I mean, Cam Thomas, You want to talk about what Jalen Green was supposed to become? A lot of nights that kind of looks like Cam Thomas.
All right. Same draft class too, I believe. Let's see here. Kind of closing the book on this. DCFNF says, who are your top 3 trade targets? I mean, we could do this collectively if you want to, because I think we both have Cam Johnson, obviously. So, like, that could be one. Then we could both come up with one.
Yeah, Cam Johnson would be my top guy for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for sure. So, who's your other guy? Well, I'm thinking, like, you do NBA all the time. So, like, you got people in your mind. I got to go look at some stuff.
It's just tough with me with, like, how our team is set up and who's going to be available. I don't think we need a big. I think anybody talking about us needing a big is forgetting that we have, that it is iHeart and Chet and Jay Willis coming back. I really don't think we need a center. I don't think we need that at all. I really am of the opinion that we need kind of that big wing. And it's just hard to think of like who is available on the market in kind of that mold. Like I'm looking through teams right now and I'm trying to think of, I know there are some people that were like, I saw someone, I think, tweet out about Bruce Brown, but Bruce Brown hasn't played this season. I don't really want to risk that. He's making a good bit of money. Honestly, there are a lot more trade targets I hate than ones that I love, which makes it tough. Like I'm looking at the teams. Also, something I think that the NBA might run into is I think there's a lot more buyers and sellers at this point.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So it's going to make it difficult. I mean, honestly, it might just be Sexton. Sexton might be like, I really like Colin Sexton's game. I think he'd be awesome for this team. Like, do the Pelicans have anybody? Like, I mean, I'd love her, but obviously that's not happening. Trey Murphy, they're not going to trade. Yeah, man, it might be Sexton. I'm looking through the teams one more time just to make sure there's nobody I'm missing. But I think it might be him. I wouldn't even hate Dorian Finney-Smith. I'll definitely like Cam Johnson more, but DFS has also been having a great season. Like, you give me either of those Nets guys, and I'm cool with it. Cam Johnson would be so sick. I cannot lie.
Absolutely would be. Yeah, I'm trying to look at some.
Somebody who's a little bit like randomly under the radar, and I don't think the Raptors trade him because he's young, and I just don't think they make that type of move. Ochai Agbaji has been really good this season. 12 points per game, 44.7% from 3. Like, if the Thunder just wanted to, like, if for some reason he became available and we were able to get him for like a first round pick, and like that's like the only option out there, I would definitely not hate getting Ochai Agbaji. I like his game a lot. So
yeah, I like the Agbaji. Even going in the draft, I would have been cool if the Thunder drafted him. Trying to bring up a different name. Yeah, it's like you said, like it's hard to find a team that's even going to be willing to.
It really feels like it feels like a buyer's market for sure. Like you take a look at the standings, and it's just it's really tough.
I will say it would be like they're not going to give him up because he's young. It would be really cool to get Toumani Camara.
That's a great shout. Yeah, Toumani Camara is awesome.
Yeah,
like he's a lot.
He's young, so I doubt they move him. But man, he would be awesome.
You know who would also be cool? There's also no way they trade him because he's on Phoenix and they're trying to compete right now. Royce O'Neal has been having like a career year right now. Like he'd be really good for this team. He's up there in age though, which is a little bit tough. I think my pick probably would be Sexton if I had to make a pick. For my top 3 trade candidates, I think it would be Cam Johnson and Sexton as like probably like the top 2. Udoka's not playing Reed Shepherd. Yeah, Yanni. Reed has just kind of been. It's the Rockets. I think should play him a little bit more, but also he's been kind of timid, and it's just one of those things where they like suddenly are like, hey, we're actually being really competitive, so they don't want to risk too much. He's not going to be available for trade, but
I love Reed Shepherd. You know this.
We're not getting any more goddamn Kentucky guys for Dylan. We're not doing it. It's not. You know who would actually be sick? Who was having a career year? DeAndre Hunter has been ridiculous this season. I'm just saying.
I'd be down with it.
He's putting up 20 points per game off the bench right now. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've always liked the idea of DeAndre Hunter. He's not as good of a defender as he used to be though. He's more just like
offense. I would say the offense has definitely kind of taken the lead over the course of this season for him, because he's been so good on that end. But yeah.
I've seen some people say this name. This is not my pick, but I want to hear what you think about it. If you're getting a shooter, it's like expectation Cam Johnson, reality Malik Beasley.
Malik Beasley. Malik's definitely not bad. I mean, he's been great so far this year for the Pistons. What's his 3-point percentage at right now? I think it's probably still over 40, is it? Or it might have dipped below, actually.
41.1.
No, I think it's still there. Oh, yeah, he just shot 7 for 9 against the Jazz a couple of days ago. And 7 of 13 against the Heat. And 3 of his last 4 games, he's hit 7 threes.
That's nuts.
7 against the Jazz, 7 against the Heat, 0 for 3 against the Celtics, 7 against the Knicks, 6 against the Celtics. In his last 5 games, he's hit 27 threes. That's nuts.
Imagine that volume shooting on OKC.
I'm not opposed. If the Pistons are willing to give him up, I don't think they are. But
yeah,
I like Malik. He's good. He's really good.
Another guy I like, just for the sake of being a Kentucky guy, and also like a strong wing. His shooting is not as good this year. He's dealt with injury, but he is on a rebuilding team, and they might be willing to part ways with him. Keldon Johnson out of UK.
You keep doing this. You got to be stopped. We got to put Dylan down. We can't let it keep happening.
How do you feel about Keldon Johnson?
Keldon's cool. Yeah.
I don't think he costs as much as he used to.
Yeah, I don't think so. The Spurs, they're in a weird spot with Keldon, where I feel like he's kind of not on the way out, but it's like kind of a little bit of an afterthought with him right now. Mm-hmm. It's like, he's just not one of their core pieces. It doesn't feel like anymore. So if you wanted to buy low on Keldon, I wouldn't hate it. But I feel like that's something I might rather do before we got established. Like when we were a couple years ago, where it's like, we're trying to still find our talent. I would have maybe rather preferred the Keldon Johnson trade over what we have now.
Well, I was trying to get people to do it, but they didn't want to do it. So I tried to make it happen before.
Yeah, you had to be stopped. I
didn't have to be.
What we're talking about, I know I mentioned DeAndre Hunter. Yeah, this season, if we're going off EPM, 83rd percentile in offensive EPM, and his defensive is 51st percentile. So he's like kind of an average, middle of the pack type of defender, and he's clearly an above average offensive player. I mean, he's putting up 20 a game on really good shooting, so it makes sense.
Where does Cam Johnson rank on that defensive?
Cam Johnson, let's see. I think he's pretty low, and that's probably just because the Nets are not exactly stout on that end.
Yeah, that's another thing that I've kind of brought up. Like, I feel like playing not for a rebuilding team, playing for a contender that like really values the defensive end of the ball would make you want to buy in a little bit more defensively.
Yeah, where is Cam Johnson? It's so hard because you can't like search on the EPM site.
I know it.
Because you got to pay for it, which is obnoxious. Although I use it enough, maybe I should just.
Oh, Dolan has an account. He gave us the login.
Oh shoot, man, I'm behind on that. I need to do that. That would make my life so much easier. Yeah, I'm like out here trying to find stats and stuff sometimes, and I'm like, bro, I cannot find this player. Like they're not coming up.
It's all good. You don't gotta find it. If you've got to scroll that far, it's probably pretty low.
No, like I'm searching on the offensive EPM, like sorting, and I know he's high. Like I just was looking at it earlier. I honestly maybe we should just eye test it because he's going to be towards the top. Because he's been sick this season. Oh, future Thunder legend Larry Nance Jr. plus 2.2, 90th percentile. Man, what a guy.
You gotta love it.
Okay, I found Cam. He's in the 24th percentile defensively, so it's been a bad year for him. But offensively, plus 3.6, that's 95th percentile.
Yeah.
And his EPM as a whole is plus 2.7, which is the 90th percentile, which is crazy. Like for a role player in a team that's pretty bad, that's unbelievable, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, like he's not even a role player. Like at Brooklyn, he's like their best player.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's like a new Mikal Bridges type format where it's like they just took a former Phoenix Suns role player. They're like, all right, be our guy, and he's like, okay.
Hey, shout out Mikal. He's started to turn around there in New York. So.
He has, yeah. Also, if you're wondering about Cam Johnson, to the viewers listening, last 2 games, 33 points against the Raptors, 22 against the Cavs, 12 against the Grizzlies, 26 against the Bucks. We want a Bucks killer. You got one. 26 against the Pacers, 26 against the Magic. He had 3 straight games of 26 points. He scored 20 plus in every game since November 29th, and including the 33 piece. So we just talked about against the Raptors. So if you're someone who hasn't been convinced yet to the Cam Johnson train, I don't know where you're at, because it just makes all the sense in the world to me.
Yeah, 33, 10, and 6 in the fourth quarter of this last game. He had, wow, I'm getting a pinwheel. Okay, 15 points in the fourth quarter of his last game against the Raptors. I mean, he's clutch. He does all the stuff. And also, I will say that Jake Fisher also mentioned that Oklahoma City is a name that he heard associated with Cam Johnson on his last Bleacher Report stream, as Cone spills his water all over the place.
All over the place. It's a disaster. It's okay.
Right.
Thankfully, it went away from me. Like, it didn't go towards my laptop. It went away off the side of my desk. So it's kind of just on the floor now. But
Yeah.
a little bit on my jacket. It's fine. It's just water.
At least it's water, yeah. It's not like, soft drink where it's going to get like sticky and smelly and whatnot.
Oh, man, that'd be a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing got to mention, we've talked extensively. This is the longest pod we've had in a while. I'm sorry I'm keeping you up, Cone. It's late on the East Coast.
Bro, you are not keeping me up. This is the hours I'm up.
This is true. There's sometimes Cone is watching Marvel shows at like 3:30 in the morning. So,
That's what I'm doing. I'm locked in.
Yeah, absolutely. So the only game that we're playing between now and the next time we podcast on Tuesday, which I don't know if we're podcasting Tuesday or not yet. We'll have to kind of play that by ear because it is close to Christmas. It's the night before Christmas, quite literally. We might see Jaylen Williams on our ceiling while we're podcasting.
On our ceiling?
Yeah, because Santa, bro.
No, but that's the roof. On the ceiling is giving me ceiling is giving me like Hereditary vibes, where like the grandma's in the corner of the ceiling and it's just Dub up there. That if Dub is on my ceiling, that's terrifying, bro. That's scary as hell. If I looked up and Jaylen Williams is on my ceiling like he's Spider-Man, that'd be crazy.
That's fair. It's very fair. All right. That might be on our roof, all right? We might hear a clatter on our roof and it's Dub.
Yeah.
Or Santa. You get the deal. Anyways, we played the Washington Wizards. I'm predicting that I don't know what the spread's going to be. I think I
can see if they have it.
Yeah, I think the spread for the Celtics Wizards game the other night was 13.5. So I would say it's something similar for us. We'll be in OKC.
Nothing yet. I mean, I think I'm gonna go with like, what'd you say the spread was for that other game?
13.5.
I think it's be like 15.5.
Okay.
Like,
and
the Wizards.
Are you taking us to cover?
I think we win by like 34. I think we're back at home. I think we crush them.
Get your alt spreads out, people.
Yeah, I think we should slaughter that team. It should be a beautiful Christmas present, to the point where, because I've got some stuff I'm doing with family on like Christmas Eve leading into Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I should be able to just throw the game on the side, and I just look over every 5 minutes and I'm like, oh cool, we're up 48 now. That's awesome. And then just look back over to what I'm doing. That's the kind of game I need.
It's like, oh cool, Jaylen Williams is on my ceiling.
I hope Jaylen Williams is out there playing on my TV and not on my ceiling. I hope that would be, if he's at my house on my ceiling and not on the court, something has gone awry. I did something to piss him off, or the team plane dropped him off at my house for some reason, and he's confused and probably doesn't know why he's on my ceiling. Like there's been some kind of like rift in the space-time continuum if that happened.
It's like Jaylen Williams appears on the injury report on Tuesday, and it said undisclosed reasons, and we're just all on high alert.
Yeah, for some reason J-Dub is out for like personal or something on Christmas Eve. Be on high alert. Be worried. He might be on your ceiling. I don't know.
Oh god, that's so funny. I can't. Okay, well, with that, on that note, I think that's the perfect time to end the podcast. But before we end the podcast, I would be remiss if I didn't invite you guys once again to our Top of Thunder fan event, our third annual fan event, happening March 21st against the Charlotte Hornets. You get to see Thunder legend Trey Mann, who should be back on the basketball court by then.
He should be.
potential NBA All-Star, potential All-NBA player, LaMelo Ball, who's been just phenomenal, like so fun to watch this season with his scoring, his passing, and just some of the stuff he's trying out there, like shooting one-legged three-pointers just because he can and making them. Just shout out LaMelo Ball. But yeah, it's going to be a really fun game. You got 3 seating options. You got low level, club level, upper level. We are the only podcast that provides those options, so you're welcome. After the game, you will get to come onto the court, take group photos. I always say group photos, but I mean, you know, if you have your phone, you can take photos with your friends while we're, you know, kind of lining up and, you know, waiting to shoot the shot, because we will be shooting a half-court shot. And if you make that half-court shot, you will win a basketball signed by the entire Oklahoma City Thunder basketball team. This is a team.
It's a pretty cool prize. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, this is a team that might win the championship. I almost said national championship. This is a team that might win the final.
We got to get you to sleep. It's way past your bedtime. Dubs on the ceiling. The Thunder in the national championship game. It's too much going on. Sign up for the fan event. Come hang out. It's been so much fun in the past. We've got some cool stuff that we want to do even the Saturday following the game. Like we have some cool stuff in mind. Come out, support, have a lot of fun. You get to go in the Thunder court. You get to shoot a half-court shot. How often do you get the chance to do that? Come show out. Come show support.
Yep. And you can find that link in our Twitter at OKC Topic Thunder. It's not on Blue Sky yet, but follow us on Blue Sky. However you format your Blue Sky, it's also OKC Topic Thunder. So, yeah, with that being said, I think we're going to go ahead and put this one to a close. I got to get some sleep. Hope everybody has a great night. God bless. Hoop when you can. And as always, Thunder up.
Thunder up. Thunder up. We're going to be the Wizards, by